Alright, boys and girls, today we're going to do a video on my M5 here, and what I'm going to talk about is increased emissions. So I've owned this car for almost 7 years now. I bought it, it had 100,000 kilometers. I believe it's now up around 215 or 220 on it. Original engine, original rod bearings. I just replaced the throttle actuators. I've got good AFE filters in my boxes. The car's tuned, blah blah blah. So probably after the third year of owning this car, every once in a while on my dash inside I would get increased emissions, and it didn't really seem to affect the car or anything. It would come up on here on the screen, just say increased emissions. Usually is sometimes as soon as you start the car, sometimes it would just happen when you were driving, and it really didn't seem to affect the car any, but it was, you know, an aggravation and annoyance, and I couldn't really seem to pinpoint it, honestly. So I scanned it, I'd clear it, and it would go away for like 2-3 months, and then all of a sudden one day, wham, it would just come back. So what ended up happening was, here late last year, I ended up getting a low injector pressure code after doing a fairly large burnout with the thing, and again brought it home, cleared it, and the car seemed to be fine. It didn't really want to show a reason why it was throwing this code. So the other part of it was, when I first bought the car, on cold starts it would come up to a nice high idle as soon as it fired up, like probably 1400 RPM, and it would hold there fairly steady and then work its way down to its warm idle, which is what it's supposed to do. But the last going off, and especially when this increased emissions light would come on, the car would start very rough in the cold starts in the morning. It would start at a lower rev. It would kind of surge the tach up and down a little bit, and just didn't seem quite right. So, and also towards the end, if you just tried to jump in it and drive it cold, when you get out on the road, it would, the first say 10 seconds, it was like it was cranky and not happy, and it would kind of buck and surge and go on as well. So what I ended up doing was, after it threw the low injector pressure code, it actually started doing it more frequently. The low injector pressure code come up again and again, and it would put the car in limp modes, and basically I had no top end at all. It would kick in at like $6,000. So we put a new fuel pump in the car late last year, and on the installation we ended up cracking one of the vent lines in the fuel pump. So I ended up having to put another fuel pump in, all because of this cracked vent line, which I don't want to get into it too much, but long story short, it's right here in my building, the old one. And what happens is, these cars are old, so the pumps that are on the market for them have been sitting around in buildings for quite a while waiting to be bought. And inside of this wrap you have 4 lines, and when I installed it, the lines must have been brittle, and one of them got a split and a hairline crack in it, so I ended up putting a second fuel pump into it. But since we've installed this new fuel pump, when I start this thing up in the mornings now, it comes up to its regular 1500 RPM high idle. The car, even when you drive it cold, it does not surge and do any bucking of any sort. And, you know, I keep this thing up to par. There's new plugs in it every season. I clean my air filters every second oil change, blah, blah, blah. New fuel filter was installed in it last year before the old pump gave out. So when I put the new pump in, the fuel filter was literally only a few months old. So new fuel pump and new fuel filter, but this car has not thrown any increased emissions code since we installed the new pump. And I've drove this car enough now to confidently say that the increased emissions was caused by the fuel pump getting weak and slowly getting bad. And then when it finally gave out all the way, it threw the low injector pressure codes, and then we went on with replacing the fuel pump and getting the car back to normal the way it should be. So the other reason I haven't done a lot of videos of this car this year is because a black bear actually ran in the side of it here, and I know the camera's probably not going to pick it up, but there is damage done to this door here, and right here on this seam, again the camera's not going to pick it up, but I've basically got a crinkle on either side of that seam. And I've been waiting to get the car fixed, dealing with insurance companies and whatnot, and it's just, you know, with this COVID bullshit and everything, it's quite a racket to try to get something done. So, long story short, if you've got an increased emissions code on your BMW, especially an M5, you know, as long as all your vacuum and all your hoses and everything is tight, that you're not getting air from somewhere else. If you had the similar symptoms what I described to you, you're probably going to be looking at a fuel pump replacement, or if you're lucky, you might just have to replace your fuel filter. But that being said, my experience with these higher end cars, if your filter's plugged up bad enough that it's causing this to happen, you've probably already done the damage to your pump and weakened it. So a lot of times if you just replace the filter, you'll probably be into the pump shortly afterwards. So that's my increased emissions video on my M5. Hopefully it helps you guys out and shed some light. And I'd like to get this out and get some more exhaust videos and stuff of it for you guys, so maybe that'll happen here in the near future. We've been pretty busy with the Sea-Doos and the trucks, or Honda, everything. It's just been one hell of a summer for stuff breaking, so we got to keep up onto it or it gets to be too much. So I appreciate you guys for watching the video. Please subscribe and check out the other videos, and we'll see if we can get this thing out to do some rips here soon.